With the new year set to begin in the world of mixed martial arts, it's time to take a look at some fighters who are set to make a big splash in 2022. On today's top 10, we are trying to pinpoint the fighters who could become contenders in their respective division before the year ends. Those who have yet to get that signature win that establishes them as mainstays in the rankings and future title challengers. Last year we had Islam Makhachev, Sean Brady, Sean Strickland, Marina Rodriguez, Kai Kara France, and Magomed Ankalaev, who were all able to position themselves as future contenders in their respective weight classes. Who will it be this year? Who will establish themselves as the next big thing, the next great contender? Here are the top 10 fighters to watch in 2022. That list was very difficult to make as so many young fighters are on the cusp of contendership right now. One guy that is not on the list though, and I knew that I'd get some comments about him if I didn't mention him, is Paddy Pimblett. To be honest guys, I don't think Paddy is that good, and I think his UFC debut against a mediocre opponent kinda reinforced that belief I had. I might be wrong in the end, and of course the UFC likes him a lot and will push him, but I'm just not that confident that he's got what it takes to win the big fights in the sport's deepest and best division. Another guy I've excluded from the list is Mohamed Mokaev. Yes, he surely looks like a generational talent, and the flyweight division is still kinda slim, so he could rise up the ranks very quickly. But the guy has still yet to fight in the UFC, and I'd feel pretty bad putting a guy with zero UFC experience over all the other guys that have been grinding for a year or two to get where they at. But still, I wouldn't be surprised if Mokaev is already a top 5 flyweight by year's end. Since there were so many deserving fighters, I've decided to include 10 honorable mentions instead of 5, so here they are. Movsar Evloev. I had him tied with Topuria before he had to pull out of their fight, but he's still an honorable mention. Damn, did I just spoil one of my picks? Umar Nurmagomedov. Tough to put him on the list with only one UFC fight, but you know the Khabib connection will make the UFC push him as quickly as they can. Adrian Yanez. I could have made this top 10 only about bantamweight fighters, and Yanez is for sure one of the great bantamweight prospects. He had a few weird losses before getting into the UFC, but he surely seems to have outgrown them. Shavkat Rakhmonov. The reason I have guys like Rakhmonov and Umar outside the top 10 is because they have trouble getting into the US with the pandemic, and they're pretty much limited to Abu Dhabi cards right now. Although they surely will become top 5 talent, I don't know if they'll be able to be active enough for it to happen this year. Alexander Romanov, a huge heavyweight wrestler who specializes in Donkey Kong hammer fist from Mount. That's what we need more of. Amanda Lemos. Although controversial, her last win against Angela Hill really established her as a solid top 10 fighter at 115 who is ready to take the next step this year. Erin Blanchfield. With only 2 UFC fights, she is set for a huge opportunity after she won her prospect versus prospect fight against Miranda Maverick in dominant fashion. Alex Caceres. The only non-prospect on the list, Bruce Leroy, seems to have found his groove once again. He's on a 5-fight winning streak, he seems to have a purpose in the cage for the first time in a while, and he's set to fight Sodiq Yusuff in March in a fight that could really re-establish him as a force in the division if he wins. Lerone Murphy, a non-defeated fighter who already beat a high level of competition outside the rankings, is set to make a big splash whenever he gets the chance to. And finally, Arman Tsarukyan, a guy who I feel will become a contender by his own performances in the cage without never really getting a promotional push. Let's move on with the top 10, and at number 10, it's Ilia Topuria. Like I said earlier, I had him and Evloev tied at number 10 as the winner of that fight was without a doubt moving up significantly in the 145 rankings. Evloev pulled out, but Topuria is still fighting at UFC 270, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him enter the top 15 with a win over Charles Jourdain. We are witnessing a Georgian invasion in the UFC, and to be honest, Topuria might be the scariest prospect of them all. In fact, most fighters from Georgia are either amazing wrestlers and grapplers like Merab Dvalishvili or amazing strikers like Giga Chikadze. Somehow, Topuria is the only one that seems to be both at the same time, as he's as comfortable on his feet as on the ground. And to add to all of that, he's super athletic, explosive, and powerful. Such a scary prospect that gets the 10th spot on my list of fighters to watch in 2022. At number 9, it's Jack Shore. This top-notch Welsh prospect was set for a massive fight against Umar Nurmagomedov in London in March, but the Russian had to pull out from the contest. Shore will remain on the card and fight his teammate and a guy who was also considered for the list, Timur Valiev. If he wins, it should be enough to push him into the bantamweight rankings where he would be set for a slew of amazing matchups. Shore's style reminds us of a GSP as he is a very good wrestler and top control fighter with a great back take game and a mean rear naked choke. The only setback of Shore is his activity. He's got almost twice as much cancelled fights as actual UFC fights on his resume. If he's able to stay active this year, the UK's top prospect is probably 1 or 2 wins away from getting an opportunity to fight a highly ranked contender, and that's why I've got him at number 9. At number 8, it's Tom Aspinall. Okay, so from now on, you could say that most of the guys on the list already have a signature win under their belt and they are all already ranked in their divisions. For Aspinall, that win is Andrei Arlovski. But since the veteran has been out of the UFC's ranking for a little while now, I still don't consider him as a win that establishes you as a surefire top 5 heavyweight. That win could be his next for Aspinall, as he's now ranked 10th in the division and is set to take on Shamil Abdurakhimov at UFC London. That win would absolutely raise his profile in the rankings and put him 1 or 2 wins away from a title shot. He would have to start facing off against the Rosenstrikes and Blaze of the division, and that would mean he's now considered as a contender. He's the fresh blood in the division in constant need of some, and that's why I've got him at number 8. At number 7, it's Mateusz Gamrot. We knew that the KSW double champ was going to be good when he came to the UFC. When he lost his first fight by split decision to fellow newcomer and short notice replacement Guram Kutateladze, we were all very surprised. But the Polish didn't let his first pro loss get under his skin as he immediately dispatched of Scott Holtzman and Jeremy Stephens. He then got a shot at ranked fighter Diego Ferreira, who he absolutely dismantled and finished to get his own ranking spot. Cracking the top 5 at lightweight is one of the most difficult things to do in the sport as the division is so deep and talented. But Gamrot is surely on the short list of 155 pounds prospect who could achieve that feat in 2022, as his next fight is set to be a big one. Whether he fights one of the more established names or another top prospect in the same position as him, you know that a win in his next fight would mean big opportunities for the Polish champion. That's why he's sitting at number 7 on the list of fighters to watch this year. At number 6, it's Manon Fiorot. Amongst all the top prospects at women's flyweight, Fiorot is probably the one who's fought the lesser competition at the UFC level. But still, she's by far the prospect I am the most confident in, as she really looks like the female version of Cyril Gane. She's an amazingly technical kickboxer who moves super well on her feet and who's got surprising grappling chops offensively as well as defensively. Like her male counterpart, she's also extremely calm in a cage as she exudes supreme confidence in her skills and fight IQ. She's set to fight Jessica Eye at UFC 272 in March in a fight that will greatly bump her ranking spot up if she wins. From there, sky is the limit for Manon, who could really be one of the most legit contenders to Valentina's throne in the coming years. That's why she's at number 6 on the list. Time for the top 5, and at number 5, it's Bryce Mitchell. 2021 should have been the year where MMA's best rapper becomes a featherweight contender, but he wasn't able to fight during the year. It will surely happen though in 2022, as Mitchell is already booked to fight Edson Barboza at UFC 272. I don't feel like beating Barboza at 145 in 2022 makes you a top 5 fighter in the division, but it's surely the win that brings you to the fight that will make you a top 5 fighter in the division. So Mitchell is just 1 win away from that fight, and since we know Barboza doesn't respond well to pressure and can be overwhelmed by superior grapplers, I think it's fair to assume that Bryce has the chance to do very well in that matchup. He could then go on and fulfill what we all expected of him last year. That's why I've got him at number 5. At number 4, it's Giga Chikadze. You know, like I just mentioned, I don't feel like beating Barboza at 145 makes you a top 5 fighter in the division, but that surely brings you to the fight that will make you a top 5 fighter in that division. Well, Giga just had that fight. The thing is, I don't know the results because I am recording this the day before his matchup against Calvin Kattar. But I got to say, beating Kattar absolutely makes you a top 5 fighter and a bona fide featherweight contender. So if Giga won, then he's there, and one of the fighters on my list already made it. If not, then I'm not too worried about him, as he's one of the most technical strikers in the UFC and he's still learning the ropes as a MMA fighter. He's still got work to do when it comes to grappling and energy management, but his elite striking abilities make him a must-see TV fighter that the UFC will continue to put into some big spots, as he's got the drive to stay active and to learn on the job. No matter if he won or lost against Kattar, I feel like there's no way Giga Chikadze does not become a contender in the featherweight division in the near future, and that's why I've got him at number 4. At number 3 is Rafael Fiziev. So at this point, it's not if, but just when. Like Chikadze, Fiziev is a supremely skilled striker who is super technically proficient while still being one of the most exciting fighters in the division. The way he got into a war with Brad Riddle and still seemed very in control of the situation makes him a very special talent, as he's able to stay calm and composed in some really high stress and high pressure situations. He's now set to take on former champion Rafael dos Anjos in a Fight Night main event in February. Like Barboza, if a RDA win in 2022 does not officially make you a top 5 fighter in your division, it would surely set him up to fight someone like the loser of the Dariush Makhachev fight, or even a Michael Chandler or Tony Ferguson if they don't end up fighting each other. How crazy would all these matchups be? That's all in our immediate future, as I have no doubt Fiziev is the next guy to burst into contention in the lightweight division, explaining why I've got him at number 3. At number 2, we've got Casey O'Neill. So haven't I said that the women's flyweight prospect I have the most confidence in is Manon Fiorot? Yes, for sure, but I feel like the prospect that the UFC is the most invested into in that division is by far Casey O'Neill, and I mean, I get it. She's an absolute savage who's got 3 finishes in as much UFC fights and who already has a win over the champ's sister, Antonina Shevchenko. She's now set to fight the ultimate gatekeeper of the elite in her division, Roxanne Modafferi, at UFC 271 in February, and what will be her retirement bout. So the intentions are pretty clear here. Roxy is a well-known fighter who they've been using to put prospects over for a little while now, and they will try to use her last fight to put their next great prospect over. From there, O'Neill would be set to move up the rankings to fight the Chukagins and Mayas of the division before getting a title shot. And also, let's keep it 100 here. As much as we try to ignore it, in women's fighting, looks do sell. Look at Paige Van Zandt, Rachel Ostovich, Pearl Gonzalez, and all these girls who weren't that good at fighting but stayed in the UFC way too long because they looked good. Well, Casey O'Neill looks good, there's no two ways about it, but unlike these other girls, she can fight for real and she does have the potential to become a household name in the division. I just feel like she may get there before another deserving contender like Manon Fiorot, only because she also happens to be really pleasant to look at. And let's face it, the UFC is still in desperate need of anybody good to fight Valentina, so that's why I've got her at number 2. And finally, at number 1, it's Khamzat Chimaev. Some people feel like putting Khamzat there is cheating, as he is clearly a once-in-a-lifetime talent that would be a huge disappointment if he never became a UFC champion. I already have the feeling that the whole MMA world is just waiting on Khamzat to fight for the title at 170, but must I remind you that his last fight is basically the only ranked opponent he ever beat. So even though it already feels like Khamzat is one of, if not the best 170 pounds fighter on the planet, from a ranking standpoint, he's yet to establish himself as a true contender in the division. The main problem for Khamzat now is that he's a ranked fighter and that nobody really wants to fight him. In a division where people are known to sit on their ranking spots, nobody ranked above him wants to put their spot on the line against him, except for Neil Magny. Even those below him are not too fond of getting their progression halted by a Chimaev ass whooping. I guess they'll just end up making that Magny fight someday. Then I wouldn't even be surprised if Chimaev moved directly into a title shot after that win, therefore bypassing the fight that would really turn him into a bona fide top 5 contender. And that wouldn't be too bad, as we kinda know he's already there. That's why Khamzat Chimaev is my number 1 fighter to watch out for in 2022. This concludes my list. Leave a like if you like, tell me what I forgot in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to MMA Talk for some more content. See you next time.